So staying with us now, a Cape Town businessman has been shot dead during what's believed to have been an attempted kidnapping. It's alleged that 3 armed men tried to hijack or kidnap the victim outside his business in Cape Town this morning. Police are investigating. There has been an alarming rise in kidnappings in the country. The City of Cape Town says it's exploring ways to better protect its citizens. Safety and Security Mayco member JP Smith joins me now. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Smith. We do appreciate it. I want to ask you, firstly, what are you doing as the city to try and protect citizens as much as possible? I know it's not easy and you are, of course, going to need more law enforcement on the ground, but what are you doing for the short term to protect your citizens?
So traditionally or normally, this is not a space in which the city has much or any role to play. In that this is an investigative and reactionary role in which the police respond to a kidnapping. And the city is normally not given any space to operate in this. It's something that SAPS does exclusively. We have, over the last kidnapping cases, become extremely concerned about what's been happening. If you look at the crime statistics this last quarter, Johannesburg went from 189 to 723 cases, and whilst out of the top 30 stations, 22 on Gauteng, 7 in KZN and 1 in Mpumalanga. Cape Town doesn't feature in those stats yet. They are becoming far more significant, and this is going to start having an impact on the safety of our country and how our country is perceived. And we are worried that we are not seeing an attempt or an intervention by national government that will arrest this trend. So we have asked that the South African police establish an effective anti-kidnapping task team, and that they allow the city and province to play a role in that. Similarly with the extortion, there is an extortion committee, but it does little other than assess the statistics. We're saying that there is an operational role for all 3 spheres of government to play, and we're asking to be made part of that operational role, because we can't stand by as local government and watch both the extortion and the kidnapping situations worsen. They're affecting communities across our city, and they have devastating reputational impact and devastating consequences for the lives of people. We had one of the victims' families come and see us recently and talk us through what happened to them. And it's mind-boggling to wrap your head around people having a family member of yours that they torture in an attempt to extort money.
Certainly. I mean, we've seen videos circulating of those that have been kidnapped, and it's truly a worrying picture. I mean, today a businessman was shot dead in what appears to have been a kidnapping or hijacking gone wrong. I mean, we don't know the details around that as yet. But I want to speak about the increasing concern around kidnappings and hijackings, especially when it comes to businessmen. They obviously follow businessmen around. They watch their moves. They watch how there's possible movement of cash, and this is why they become a very big target. But what can be done to try and safeguard these businessmen? Because it seems as though those that are kidnapped and hijacked, it's more or less the same kind of people. It's businessmen or somebody in a community that's very well off that these syndicates keep targeting.
Or the family of those businessmen.
Yes.
So absolutely, this is a very difficult type of crime to prevent, because the number of victims are so potentially large. There's an endless number of people constantly moving around, and to guard all of them is very difficult. And I'm very keen that we prevent the kind of scenario you have in Mexico or elsewhere, where kidnappings become so endemic that anybody with any kind of money has to constantly move around with bodyguards. That's not a situation we want here. We are not near that situation yet. But if we don't arrest the current trend, things are going to continue to spiral out of control. We had a consultation today with some international consultants on this. We said, what is there for us to do as local government outside of what SAPS is doing? We understand that the Hawks are at the moment busy with additional training, and we ourselves are asking them to come and train our staff so that we can support national government as best possible, invite the NPA and the South African police to be part of that training, so we can continuously find ways in which we can support their efforts. The answer is that there must be convictions. When kidnappings like this happen, especially as today, where it appears to have led to a murder, it is imperative that we get convictions. If there are consistent convictions over time, these kidnapping syndicates will fall apart. But if they get away with kidnapping one after the other and there's no consequence, they will become emboldened and it will continue, and the number of victims and the scope of victims will increase. Initially, when these happened, we saw them confined to a small business pool, mainly foreign nationals, often of Indian or Pakistani, Bangladeshi descent. And the original story we were told is that these are people who have bank accounts in Dubai, and that is how they are identified. But we've certainly seen the pool, the victim pool, grow beyond that. And what we're told today is that social media is a tool that the kidnappers use. They identify victims on social media by virtue of the kind of affluence or resources they appear to have. If you're dropping your kids at school or doing other things and you're self-surveilling on social media and posting pictures, including potentially your number plate, your home address, other things like that, then those all increase the risk, especially in that it aids kidnappers to do surveillance on people without even having to be near them. So those are all risk factors. It's good if people understand this. And for the rest of it, we will continue to engage SAPS in an attempt to play a more significant role as the city, because we've got resources, we have CCTV cameras, we're increasingly gathering information and trying to work smart, but it is necessary for SAPS to work more closely with us, with integrated task teams of the kind you see operating in other cities internationally, so that all spheres of government play a role in trying to curb this and making sure that once there is a kidnapping, there is very rapidly a recovery and a conviction.
I'm glad you mentioned the aspect of social media, because I think sometimes we forget how influential that can actually be and how much information is actually taken from social media and the posts that you share. So it's also the responsibility of an individual to be a little bit wary of what you share out there in the public, because you don't know who's actually watching. I'm glad you mentioned working closely with SAPS, and perhaps that can be my last question, Mr. Smith, with regards to your working relationship with SAPS, because we do know that there have been comments made by Police Minister Begitele when it comes to the deployment of SAPS within the Western Cape. But would you say that your relationship with SAPS is that of a conducive relationship where you are able to work together to get to the bottom of this?
On the issue of kidnapping and extortion, no, not yet. We're part of an extortion task team, but it's very much a committee where statistics are shared. When the operational matters come, the city is required to excuse itself from the meetings. We're saying that there needs to be a proper integrated task team with members from all the different agencies seconded to it, so that they can work together as a team. And the same with kidnapping. These problems are becoming to a level now where our mayor is asking us all the time to please assert ourselves more on this, because we do not see national government effectively intervening. I can tell you that the working relationship with SAPS, by and large at grassroots level, as this last 2 weeks with the situation around Nyanga and the taxi violence showed, is seamless, is extremely good. On operational level, we have really solid relationships between the senior staff. They work together they work out of one joint operation center. It does get messier when it gets up the food chain and you start getting to the political office bearers. And luckily, I can say that, or can comfortably say that, the weakest part of our relationship with the South African police is in the form of Minister Cele. Everything below that gets a great deal better. But there is room for improvement on extortion and kidnapping. We are going to have to do more as a nation to fight this. The stats are alarming. And Gauteng's stats alone are petrifying. And I'm very keen for the Western Cape not to get into that situation.
Certainly, I think crime overall is extremely worrying at this stage. But thank you so much for your insights, and we wish you all the best with regards to the work being done when it comes to hijacking and kidnappings in the Western Cape. That is JP Smith, Cape Town Safety and Security Member.